more than 65 years, Dordt Federal Credit Union has been a helping hand to our members.
The Genesis Project. Could we develop ecospheres on other planets? If we were to discover that life is rare in the universe, does mankind have an obligation to seed other worlds with living creatures? If so, Professor Claudius Gross from Goethe University believes he's found a way we could do this via methods which are achievable within the next few decades. He calls this the Genesis Project, as it seeks to kickstart the formation of life on non-inhabited planets far outside our solar system. So let's explore how this project might work as we investigate how the Genesis Project seeks to develop ecospheres on other planets. Number 3. Transient habitability. In recent years, humans have discovered that our planet Earth might not be as unique as we thought. Sure, it's the only world we know of to harbor life, but many signs point to our planet being just one of many habitable bodies out there in the cosmos. Just because we've got liquid water, an atmosphere, and a sweet-ass moon doesn't mean we're all that. Since the very first exoplanets were discovered back in 1992, we have identified a total of 3,500 worlds outside our solar system. But while most of these are frozen popsicle planets, gas giants, and super hot balls of fiery molten rock, some are considered habitable due to their location in the solar sweet spot known as the Goldilocks zone. So named after that greedy little lady who ate other people's porridge and judged them on the quality of their mattresses. The problem is, a planet's habitability is by no means permanent. There are other factors aside from its proximity to a star which determine whether a world can harbor life. Many exoplanets inside the Goldilocks zone of their stars are habitable today and will be for a long time. These should all be left alone in case they've already developed life or may do so in the future. However, there are a significant number of exoplanets whose habitability is temporary. The conditions present today are suitable for life to evolve, but it would almost certainly die out before it managed to develop into anything complex. Advanced life would be possible on these worlds if their habitability period was somehow extended. And that's exactly what one not-so-crazy German professor wants us to do. Number 2, making a home. To make a planet suitable for life, you're going to need the presence of an atmosphere. And it's going to need to hold on to that atmosphere for a period of time known as forever. It's no good flirting with an atmosphere and breaking up after a few weeks of passionate romance. We need a long-term relationship here, and Professor Claudius Gross thinks he knows how to achieve this. Professor Gross works at the Institute of Theoretical Physics at Goethe University, Frankfurt. In an essay published in the journal Astrophysics and Space Science, Gross outlines his method of extending a planet's habitability by seeding it with microorganisms. Gross suggests we could use photosynthetic microbes to form an atmosphere, with these handsome little fellas able to queef out the gases we'd need to create a viable blanket of delicious, heat-trapping, breathable fun clouds. Achieve this, and you've changed the planet forever. The next step is to throw a few more little critters down there and give them a helping hand, because by speeding up the development of life, they stand a better chance of survival. Gross estimated that life on a seeded exoplanet could skip the 4 billion years Earth took to reach its Precambrian stage and start off from where Earth was 500 million years ago. It's basically like downloading your friend's saved game because you can't be bothered to complete a 4 billion year tutorial, which kind of makes sense when you think about it. Gross believes we could facilitate this using a gene laboratory capable of synthesizing organisms. This technology would prove crucial on an artificially seeded world, as the differences between an exoplanet candidate and Earth would present biological organisms with a slew of new challenges, none of which are fun or end up with them winning a prize. It's possible we could send a whole bunch of organisms to an exoplanet and see them die off within seconds. So to prevent this, we might modify our colony of microbes and imbue them with the ability to survive on their new world. After the initial seeding, further microorganisms would be rained down upon this world to continue the development process. These single-celled chaps would eventually transform into multicellular organisms, and in turn go on to develop into complex life like goats, hermit crabs, Rosie O'Donnell, and those weird red bugs everyone liked to squish as a kid. This process would take tens or possibly hundreds of millions of years, so I guess we better get started, right? Number 1. When do we start? Based on our modern technological capabilities, Professor Gross believes that a Genesis mission could be sent within as little as a few decades, thanks to the imminent development of unmanned microspacecraft. Light sail nanocraft capable of traveling between the stars are almost a reality, with several successful prototype tests having been conducted in the last few months. Regular Strange Mysteries fans will know we're pretty much obsessed with the Breakthrough Starshot initiative, which plans to send nanocraft to Alpha Centauri by the 2060s. These tiny baby spaceships should be capable of traveling at 20% of light speed, or around 60,000 kilometers per second, making relatively short work of the 4.3 light-year gap between us. Their journey time is estimated at 20 to 30 years, and the Starshot mission also plans to include a flyby of the potentially habitable planet Proxima Centauri b. But if we get there and there's not too much to write home about, we can make the best of it and seed this world with microorganisms. If we discover that Proxima Centauri b is dead in 2060, it is entirely possible for us to have brought it to life by the close of the 21st century. This could be achieved by sending standard Earth organisms over to this system, or we could develop the field of synthetic biology to help create organisms more suited to the new world. Synthetic biology is an up-and-coming technology we've covered in a few recent videos. In this scenario, the gene laboratory mentioned earlier could be used to edit the genome of an existing organism, duplicate an organism's genome, and place it into blank cells, or allow the creation of a new organism entirely from scratch, depending on which technique will help our star babies survive in their new home. By 2060, we should have developed both of these technologies to a degree which makes seeding a planet a feasible goal of humanity. We should also have managed to identify a number of transiently habitable exoplanets which are suited to harboring life, enabling us to expand our operation and seed more than one star system. Using artificial intelligence, a fleet of nanocraft would be able to analyze an exoplanet, scan it for signs of life, and determine whether it has the properties we need for our little cosmic gardening project. If so, mankind could be well on its way towards becoming a universal creator. But with the costs of Project Starshot estimated at $10 billion by the time it's finished, many will ask, why should we even bother considering this venture since we'll never live to see the results? This is an important question that we shouldn't dismiss, and we're going to try to answer it in our bonus video, Why Mankind Must Bring Life to the Cosmos, which you can watch on our Patreon page at patreon.com/Strange Mysteries. For a $2 a month pledge, which you can cancel at any time, you'll get to watch this and all of our bonus content, which goes deeper and darker into every topic than YouTube allows. If you don't want to donate, then that's bull.
We know you wanted more. Strange Mysteries on YouTube and our Patreon bonus videos weren't enough to quench your search for truth, to give you that sense of awe and wonder again, to go past what you thought was the end, to give you the answers you seek, but which only lead to more questions.
If you ask me what's the secret of my success, I'm going to say three things. Curiosity.
Spiralizers. Light up sneakers. Smartphones without headphone jacks. Plenty of interesting yet instantly forgettable developments come along almost every month, and each one claims it'll change our lives by revolutionizing the way we pet dogs or eat ramen. But for every 1,000 inventions, ideas, and concepts, there's always one or two which genuinely could transform the lives of every human on Earth. Ah, to hell with one or two, we found 6. So, let's take a look at them in our video of the 6 future developments which will change our lives. starting at 6, 3D printers. It may seem like we've been waiting for 3D printing to get its ass in gear for a long time, but actually there have been huge strides made in the past year with this technology, meaning we could be on the cusp of a revolution in the way we buy and sell everyday products. Whereas today you might head to IKEA to buy an awful table lamp or to the sportswear store for a pair of sneakers, with a 3D printer, you'll be able to make these things at home by purchasing a design rather than a finished product. This means no shipping delays or fees, no need for manufacturing processes, and no need to leave the house ever. Hooray! I can be the misanthropic shut-in I always wanted to be. 3D printing also facilitates the creation of products customizable to your needs. Is that vase a little too blue? Change the color. Would you rather this electric toothbrush rotated clockwise instead of anti-clockwise? Just press a button. Do your size 36 jeans feel too snug around the groin? Let's input a customized value in the crotch area in order to accommodate your humongous bulge, Grandpa. Customization is one of the biggest areas of growth in commerce right now, with more and more people demanding the ability to impart their own beautiful, unique soul upon every piece of junk they purchase. However, much like the idea of tweaking a product to suit you, there will always be a need for a fully functional design to base the whole thing on. This is where 3D printing offers a solution, because rather than dealing with a huge company, you could just find someone whose designs you like, purchase the blueprints, and Shazam, there's your product, with nobody else's input needed. Right now, if you want something customizable, you have to head on over to Etsy. And even then, you're limited to $3 felt brooches and jewelry made from a dead cat's pelvic bones. But in the near future, customization will become a standard option, because even if you don't own a 3D printer yourself, many independent sellers are now setting up with the technology, allowing them to make suitable tweaks to their designs cheaply and quickly. Obviously, this future sounds a little too utopian, and in reality, it's far more likely that companies will simply hoard designs produced by teams of individuals, selling them onto you with a huge markup. But nevertheless, 3D printing does have the potential to give designers and customers the power to make their own unique products. 30 years ago, you probably couldn't have imagined having your own TV channel, yet here we are, in a world of PewDiePie, Michelle Phan, and that How to Basic guy who really likes eggs. Of course, we're making the assumption that you'll want to purchase somebody's ideas rather than pirating them. I'll be honest, I wouldn't mind downloading the plans for a 3D printable pair of sneakers. But would you really trust a power saw schematic uploaded by a 12-year-old Russian kid? No, me neither. I'll pay good money not to have my arms sawn off. I've seen that story on Reddit. No arms means extra attention from Mom. And I'm not really into that. It's also important to realize that building random stuff off the internet is just one of the many amazing things we'll see 3D printers do in our lifetimes. Bioprinting is a process which can currently be used to create organic tissues and organs for testing drugs on. But soon, we hope to create fully functional human organs and flesh to replace the ones we broke from drinking and eating cheese fries for breakfast. Using cells from your own body as a base, organs, skin, bones, and perhaps even entire limbs could be created and transplanted, eradicating the need for anti-rejection drugs. Cosmetics company L'Oreal is also investigating a possible way to cure baldness by bioprinting hair follicles. Printed teeth are being developed by several laboratories, and one New Jersey college student even printed his own braces. The mouth kind, not the ones that hold your pants up. 3D printing can also be used to customize additions such as knee or hip replacements and make them fit the human body better than ever. But as with everything, 3D printing's availability to the common man and woman is going to depend entirely on what it costs. Although you may be surprised to know that the price of 3D printers is coming down rapidly. In 2015, MIT made a device capable of using 10 different materials at once for just $7,000. Another MIT professor made a 3D printer which could print drones, and this was followed by a company who built a drone which itself could 3D print. Add those two machines together and that's pretty much the end of the world right there. Other examples of fancy 3D printing escapades include the fact that astronauts have 3D printed in space. A Polish company has just finished printing a satellite that's going to be in orbit in 2017. And China has 3D printed a fully functioning, all bells and whistles, regular old toilet. Good job, China. They also made a 3D printer that could build a 2,500 square foot house in 20 hours. But the toilet thing was funnier. It may take several decades before 3D printers become a standard item in people's homes like washing machines or George Foreman grills. But even if you never get to own one yourself, you'll definitely start seeing the effects of 3D printing around you very soon. Next up, 5. The end of real meat.
I've heard about this.
The world's first beef burger patty made...
I've been listening to this fucking end of meat shit for a minute. I tried to go vegan. I actually didn't eat meat at all for about 6 months. And it's not fucking hard to do. You really don't have to eat meat, honestly. And now people are trying to, you know, first it's the animal lovers and PETA and all these kind of people that say, oh, we're still slaughtering animals and stuff like that. And I can understand, like, because everybody does ask a good question. So what makes food animals and what makes pet animals? And it's like, because some animals are tasty and some aren't. We just want to kill and eat the tasty animals. Like chickens. Chicken. But we don't eat horses. Yeah. Well, not normally. But, so now they're talking about just growing meat in laboratories. And there's like 2 big ways to do this. One guy is trying to clone meat. Just clone animal flesh and just like grow like lumps of flesh. And this other dude is just trying to go with a completely plant-based burger that, you know, has no meat at all, but tastes and feels and cooks and sizzles and smells just like meat. And he's doing, you know, that takes a lot of laboratory work and stuff like that. So they're trying to see which one is going to be better for the market. And I think the one dude with the all plant burger actually has several different products that are already on the market. And that clone meat dude, he's not, I don't think he's selling shit yet. I think I'm fucking this canvas up. I'm not even gonna lie. I want this shit to be yellow so bad. I want this light pale yellow. But me being myself, I tone the canvas dark. And I'm trying to paint with acrylics and they're not covering this fucking dark color like I want to. So now I'm gonna sit here all fucking day and try to get this yellow to look the way I want it to.
Without Mincing Up an Actual Cow debuted in London 3 years ago, after being created by Dr. Mark Post at Maastricht University. He ate it in front of the cameras. He didn't die, so we're assuming it's safe. However, due to the challenges of scaling up this technology to the levels needed for commercial sale, we've yet to see synthetic cell-cultured meat enter our food supply. But if we're to believe the claims of several companies developing the technology, we could be chowing down on this stuff within the next few years. One such firm, Memphis Meats, claimed to have grown real, authentic-tasting meat from animal stem cells in July of 2016. Oh, those delicious stem cells. I can't get enough of them. Every time I see a pregnant woman, I'm like, you are literally a vending machine. Memphis Meats expects that their produce will be available in restaurants within 3 years and stores inside 5 at prices everyday jerks like you and me can afford. Yet some of their competitors are taking a different route, such as Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, who are both much closer to entering the commercial fake meat market. These firms create non-meat alternatives from plant proteins and fats, which they claim tastes just as good and requires far less effort to make. Despite the logic, the idea of artificial meat receives more downvotes than up from general consumers. Do we humans have an intrinsic need to know we're eating animal flesh, even if it's artificially created in a lab? just so we can look animals square in the face and say, "Hey, you, stupid goose, I will eat you. I am your god." Yes, that's my conclusion, and I'm sticking to it. Whichever method artificially created meat uses, it seems the public is going to need some convincing. Lab-grown meat is often grown in sheets, leading to the unfortunate nickname of Schmeat, which sounds like something you'd hear on Rick and Morty. And an appetizing name is just one of the things humans will have to deal with if we're to consume cultured meat en masse. The public has a huge distrust of GMOs right now, so it's more likely that food companies will have to gradually introduce synthetic meat into our food supply, like Mom putting veggies in the mash, or like Monsanto putting mutant corn monsters into everything. If synthetic meat tastes marginally different from what we're used to, we'll reject it. But if it's integrated slowly, as a small percentage of our favorite foods, such as burgers, nuggets, and mince, we'll never notice. And for those of you saying, "No way, I'll never eat something slopped out of a hose into a paddock-shaped monstrosity," well, I'm not buying that, bub. We've all seen those chicken nugget pink slime videos, yet we still chow down at the various homes of the clown and the colonel. And even genuine slabs of meat such as steaks and chops are manipulated before they get to the store. Cheap cuts from several animals are often glued together using an enzyme to create the layout of a ribeye or a pork chop. And this is after it's already been hosed off with ammonia, making it stink like cat pee. We already know our food undergoes several gross procedures before it makes its way to our plate. So if we're truly honest with ourselves, we don't give a dang how our food is made so long as we're not reminded about the ingredients all the time, and it's yummy. It's gotta be yummy. So that's the human side of the cultured meat equation taken care of. But what about the animals? Where will all the cows, pigs, sheep, and chickens go to once we no longer need them for meat? There's no doubt that a reduction in the number of animals bred for food would help the environment, because huge amounts of land and resources are used for the corporate ranching industry. And that's not to mention those ecologically devastating cow farts, whose decreasing volume may even slow down global warming. But is it right if we stop rearing farm animals just to consign them to zoos? Well, that would only happen if we believe that everyone everywhere would stop rearing animals for meat. Clearly, this won't happen. And this means we could have a niche market for genuine animal flesh, where only the rich can afford to taste the true flavor of a long-dead animal. Unless you're willing to break into a zoo and chomp on a piglet. It's also possible that one day, if synthetic meat becomes accepted, that eating genuine animal meat could be outlawed entirely. Can you imagine a society where the only way you can taste a real burger involves dealing with the secret underground meat trade via the jerky dealer on your street corner? I don't want to eat wieners and have spent all day inside some greasy tweaker's jacket, unless he's also going to hook me up with ketchup. One grotesque question of my own, which certainly needs answering, is would it ever be legal to grow human meat? If nobody's getting hurt, and it stops cannibals gnawing on their fellow man, would we also find a use for that meat-cultivating technology? Also, there's an interesting crossover here between 3D printers and tissue generation techniques. What if they were combined, and every home simply printed out its own food whenever they needed it? Would beef-flavored printer cartridges cost more than zucchini? Could I download the cell schematics needed to make a real leather jacket? Perhaps one based on Ashley Olsen's skin. Why can't I eat a piece of actual meatloaf? Why, damn it? Why? I don't know the answer to these questions, but if cultured meat really is around the corner, I think we need to find out for my own sake. At 4, self-driving cars. Right now, there are thousands of self-driving cars traversing the roadways of the world. And even though there have been a few notable accidents, the vast majority of these can be blamed on human error. Furthermore, this handful of fender benders pales in comparison with the amount of deadly pileups we humans cause. And when automatic cars become ubiquitous in the future, people are going to look back and wonder how the heck any of us managed to last a single day without getting minced by a 4x4. With bills passed in various countries legalizing the autonomous car, and Google and Tesla currently competing to roll out these vehicles commercially, A world of entirely automated vehicular transport is almost upon us. But what will this world look like? It's predicted that by 2020, there will be 10 million fully or semi-automated cars on America's roads. But it'll take until 2050 for all vehicles in the country to become 100% automated. When this happens, it is estimated that fatalities from road traffic deaths could be reduced by as much as 90%, saving 30,000 lives annually in the U.S. alone. With the human propensity for automotive carnage, it's therefore quite likely that one day driving a car on the open roads will become illegal, with non-automated cars only used for pleasure on closed circuits. You'd think Americans get angry when you try to take away their guns. Just wait until the government wants to snatch your non-automatic car off you. But this restriction could go even further, because it's also likely that individual car ownership will end, and that automatic cars will run on an Uber-style ride-hailing service. Today, cars spend 90% of their lives stationary, sat in driveways and parking lots. And it has been calculated that we need just 10% of the number of cars we have now in order to service our current needs using this approach. With such a huge decrease in costs and environmental damage possible, we'd be pretty selfish not to do this. Some people will obviously pay good money to own their own self-driving car, but if you're happy taking a fleet car, it's going to save you a heck of a lot of cash. Those who want to pay even less may also be offered to share rides with other people, much like Uber does today. And since there's no driver to rate, perhaps we'll start rating each other as passengers. Today I shared a ride with Hank. He had a musty odor and wouldn't shut up about Honey Boo Boo assassination conspiracies. 2 stars. There's also the amusing image of people having heart attacks in automated cars and turning up to their destination a little bit dead. Children being allowed to ride by themselves and getting into all sorts of shenanigans. Drug deals conducted using cars as oblivious 4-wheeled mules. And family road trips getting that little bit more tetchy now that mom and pop have nothing else to concentrate on.
Is this your life plan? Go to school, get $50,000 in debt, spend 40 years working a job you hate, live frugally so you can retire, and then retire and live frugally, and then...
However, there are a few ethical concerns regarding self-driving cars that we need to overcome before we roll them out. If a car's sensors detect a human being, at what point should it be programmed to disregard their safety in favor of its passengers? Could a hacker take control of your vehicle? Will automated cars give 2 craps about road-wandering kitty cats? And what are we going to do with all those folks who drive for a job? We'll answer that later. But one major benefit to automated cars is that with fewer vehicles on the road, there's simply no need for parking lots, garages, or road signs at all. Automated cars can move around all day waiting for passengers, charge when they need to, get repaired when they need to, and never take up space doing nothing. We'll enjoy thinner roads and faster journeys too, as automated driving systems will be far more accurate than you or I belting down the racing line of a freeway at 150 kilometers an hour. What we'll do with all this extra space is anyone's guess. I'd like to believe we'd turn our city's thoroughfares back into beautiful organic spaces which were here originally, but it's more likely we'll get a bunch more condos and Starbucks. Oh, and there's one more bonus to the development of self-driving cars which you might not have considered, because it's something humanity thought it would never ever be trusted with. Hover cars. Under human control, personal flying vehicles are just too dang dangerous. But last month, Uber announced its plan to implement self-flying drone taxis to beat city traffic. And it aims to have these in the air within 10 years. Well, hot damn!
What's up? I'm still okay. No. I'm trying to figure out what is this Facebook right now? What is this? Facebook Messenger? Why didn't you just call me? Alright, well, I'm gonna check it out right now. Alright.
She's alive, she's alive. She's alive, she's alive. Yeah. Okay. Basically, I bought Molly to weed. I called Dolly a G. I was out in the sea, trying to get me some pee. And started to go his mouth and started to pull his out. Man, we polar opposites, but I like polar south, yeah, I'm out of the whole Compton. Some niggas might call it the same Compton. Same thing, no difference. Why the fuck you guys spell it that way? You couldn't kill it that way. Okay, but first is we gotta start killing each other. Everybody got a mother, then somebody go hug her. She lost a kid today cause of the rebate. And every time it ain't free, it ain't no free day. We work hard, pull hard, so we gotta play too. A fool, why the fuck you capable of taking a life? You just decide. You need to die on my side. You need a diamond, alright. You underestimate the king, nigga. You underestimate the fear of man. I'm here for positivity and no one here remain. And who is gonna remain in 10 years? I bet it's me, I bet it's me, I bet it's me. Whoa, somebody come here and manage me, because you gotta come get it before I dump the tree. Over and over the hoops like a hula hoop. I've been calling for school or two, never call me a colony. I need following to follow me, come and follow the ocracy, going nowhere the opera be. Come and get your trade. Call me for his entry. I need an entree. The bullets from Andre. Kill it and some mate. I'll make it all day. If you like falling away from me, then call me. Call me. Light bulb switching on and off. I've been goofing off. My love interest nodding apart. I know she's nodding apart. But I'm still trying to spark. I lost her. Day, all day, loathing, so self-loathing and defecating. Why Why he gotta be so levitating? But his beat intake be so levitating. Man, we call him a fever for a reason. People do care, but we don't go seeing what's inside, and everything isn't right, and everything is all black, black, black. Coming at.
Damn, that shit won't fucking play. Fuck you. Fuck you, YouTube.
Crap on what? Paul! It's Paul from Paul the Movie!
Switch to Sprint and use the cinematic LG V30 Plus for $12 a month or the LG G6 for $6 a month. Plus, you get the best price for unlimited.
Yo, this yellow will not fucking cover, yo. What the fuck?
only an explanation. It's not fair to me what you're doing. Like, how am I supposed to...
much like a leaf in the wind. Do I really have to introduce myself?
I just painted one of those canvases yellow. Let me go wash this yellow paint off these brushes, and I'm gonna put another coat of blue on this background before I start painting that one. So the first one that I finished, I just did the one color on it at one time, but I figured since these acrylics dry so fast, I might as well just put the colors on both of these canvases. But for some reason, yo, this fucking yellow is not covering how I want it to. And I probably can get that yellow to cover how I want it to, but it's gonna take more than the fucking one tube of paint. So I went and got these. I just got these yesterday, and like I did that whole blue canvas, and like this shit is, that's all the fucking paint that came out of that tube yesterday. But this fucking yellow. I've already used that much of the fucking yellow, so I'm not sure if I'm right at half a tube. So I'm not sure if this half a tube will finish that yellow, or if I'm gonna have to go get another fucking tube of this shit. But yeah, I'll definitely have a lot of this blue left over. I wanted the colors to be really like pale, but I kind of fucked up on that canvas because I toned it so dark, and I normally don't use acrylics, but since the backgrounds are so empty with so much negative space, I figured it would be easier to use acrylics because they dry faster and they're cheaper, instead of like painting a bunch of negative space with my expensive ass oil paints. So fuck that. Yeah, paints that are way too expensive for a motherfucker on welfare to afford that shit. I'm just saying.
I'd like to take you home.
What up, though? What up? A really bad job at it, bro. Really, like. First he says he would get me committed to a nursing home, which would means I'm old as fuck. But then he says I'm on welfare or I live with my parents, which would means I'm young as fuck. And it doesn't make any fucking sense, yo. Like, wait a minute, do I live with my parents or am I going to a nursing home? And it's not really a job, it's more of a hobby. Okay, bro, like, anything you get paid for is considered a job. And then if you have fun doing something that you get paid for, then it's not really a job, it's a career. And like I said the first time, welfare can't get any of this shit in here. Like, you can't buy this shit with food stamps, homie. You know what I'm saying? All these canvases, they cost like real money, like real Federal Reserve notes. You know, my paints and all my brushes and supplies, like, you can't buy that with welfare. Like I say, man, dudes, they just say the dumbest shit. It don't even make any sense. What the fuck you're saying? Oh my goodness. I gotta grab something to drink. I should have did that when I was down there. Dude, like, bro, trolling is not for you. You know, honestly, it's not the thing you should be doing right now, homie. Yeah, they call that projection. Don't project all your shortcomings on me, bro. Dank, man, it's dank. You don't know what dank is? Dank. Dank. This is the first time I've incorporated, well, not the first time, because I have done it slightly before, but like never with myself. So just showing different parts of my personality. Potheads are well-rounded people. We're not just a bunch of fucking slackers who don't do shit. So I've only finished the one. Dang. The Gamer. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, appreciate it, Dave. Cause it took me a minute. I thought about one. This is the first one that I thought about, and then I was like, well, you know, smokers do more than just play video games too, man. People do other stuff. So I thought of a second one, and then I thought of a third one. Then you got the artist. Then you have the business professional. You know, it definitely helps the world turn, man. And that's the thing, it's not as taboo as it used to be. We're on the verge of a complete turnaround for the prohibition of marijuana in the United States, and it's going to be a major cultural change and a major economic change. And you know, there's a lot of social stigmas that have been and are currently being done away with in relation to marijuana, so it's not that bad. Yeah, so I have a show coming up next year. I'm just trying to get a couple series ready for a big show. I'm even thinking about making some dank t-shirts. But Jersey, I think New Jersey just passed some recreational laws, yo, where they, you know, just go to the dispensary if you're old enough. if I can find this. Looking at this one, I might put that one back on the easel. I see a few little spots I need to change. Oh, no, they're saying it's not.
We need comprehensive criminal justice reform. It's not the only thing we should do or can do, but low-end drug crimes is the biggest contributor to that disparity. So that's the reason we want to legalize marijuana.
He's trying to go for 6 plants. Now this is what he said. Yeah, the dude, damn, what his name is, Murphy, Phil Murphy, trying to run for governor of Jersey, says, I think is very similar to what Colorado has, but it's on your own property. I don't think it's rental property. I think you have to own the land, but if you own your own property, you can grow up to 6 plants on your property. And if you're above the age, if you're 21 or older, you can have on your person up to 1 ounce of plant marijuana, 7 grams of concentrate, 16 liters of liquid, and damn, there was some other shit, yo. Up to 16 ounces of edibles. So you have like a pound. You can have a pound of edibles on you. I think that's what it was, because it was plant where you can grow, and then you can carry the plant, the edibles, the concentrate, or the liquid form, and they have different weights for each one. How much you can have on you? Yeah, it's fucking crazy, bro. I think you have 1 ounce of weed. I think like 16 ounces of edibles, 12 or 16 liters of liquid, and 7 grams of concentrate. But then right here it says legal weed in New Jersey, not a slam dunk for Governor Murphy. So yeah, because I heard about this story like in January. Yeah, and this comes from a couple months ago, so they must have already tried to shoot for it, and everybody in the local government was like, nah, dude, we're not doing that. Because you know why? I thought so too, really, because they're neighbors with Philly. not just Pennsylvania in general, but bruh, Philly is right there. You know what I'm saying? That shit'd be too crazy. Everybody in Southwest Philly man, they'll flood the shit out of fucking Jersey. They'll go over there, and then they'll be bringing all this fucking high grade shit back. And I'm just looking at the crime too, man. I hate to say that shit. I really do hate to say that shit because, you know, it is what it is. But then at the same time, it's kind of bullshit because with this whole, you know, end of prohibition on marijuana, only people with substantial capital to invest in a business venture will be able to capitalize on the new market of recreational marijuana. And businesses cost tens of thousands of dollars to start up, and most niggas ain't got that shit. So everybody who's gonna really capitalize on the new weed market are well-to-do, middle and upper class and wealthy white men who have been arresting black men and throwing motherfuckers in jail for decades over weed. Like, and that's the whole fucking irony. Like, okay, I'm happy this shit is coming to an end, but you guys don't see the irony in this shit. Like, it's so fucking crazy. Like, the white man is gonna get paid out the ass off of it, and already has been, you know what I'm saying? Right now, these motherfuckers getting paid out the ass where it is legalized. That shit is fucking crazy. And that's just another market that they're gonna corner and saturate so much that it'll be hard for, you know, black and brown people to start up and get into them shits like that. But that's the thing though, it's like, as long as you can grow your own shit though, fuck that. But, and everybody's like, oh, so everybody's gonna start growing weed, and then like, no, everybody's not gonna grow weed. For one, everybody doesn't have the land. For two, everybody doesn't have the skills or the patience, because for real, people can grow their own tomatoes and carrots and cabbage and lettuce. But motherfuckers don't do that shit. They go to the grocery store and get it. I mean, and those are simple vegetables to grow. Like, them shits just grow. Like, if you got good weather, you ain't really got to do shit. And motherfuckers just squash. You know what I'm saying? Like zucchini. The zucchini grow like a fucking weed, yo. All you got to do is plant that bitch. That shit. And motherfuckers don't even do that shit. You know what I'm saying? You can grow your own shit if you want to. Motherfuckers not trying to do that shit. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can grow it, but yeah, people ain't gonna do it because gardening, for one, like I'm saying, if people don't even grow easy vegetables, tomatoes or peppers, you don't even grow that. How you think you gonna grow some weed? You gonna fuck that shit up. You know what I'm saying? Playing in your VR. Yo, what up? Kind of, you know, man, like, I don't know. Like, again, you know, Rockwell is one of my major influences, yo. Rockwell is one of my favorite. Yeah, everybody not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying?
Hey guys, it's Claude Brodesser-Akner, and we're here at Ground Zero for legislation, the State House. This is actually the Assembly Chamber of the New Jersey Legislature, and it's here that the vote would happen to legalize marijuana in this state. Now the problem, of course, is that while we have a new governor coming in, Phil Murphy, and as one of the linchpins of his campaign was the legalization of recreational marijuana. The problem is the math is not adding up on the Democratic side for the governor-elect. and he faces a Democratic caucus that is not quite so sure it's ready to legalize weed. Let's go see why. So your vote is no.
My vote is no, but my hearing is not about yes or no. It's about educating the public. Because I think that the majority of the public, if they get the right information and not the big money, slick literature they get in the mail and what some of my colleagues are saying, if they get both sides of the equation, they're going to think for themselves and they're going to see that they're going to have some real serious community problems.
Of all the issues and problems we have in New Jersey and challenges we have, that the one real great challenge is that we need more recreational drugs. I don't think that's really what is a great challenge for New Jersey.
So bottom line for me, you are a no vote on recreational marijuana.
Yes, I am.
All right, then do what DC did. Instead of make it recreational, decriminalize it. Where there is never a chance of jail time. You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole thing about this this war on drugs, especially in the inner cities. Because once again, man, black and white, Mexican, everybody use drugs at the same proportionate rate. I don't give a fuck. Everybody uses drugs. And now this opiate addiction in the the white community is such a fucking scare that it has the government talking about this shit. But at the same time, like, y'all just keep giving fucking 15, 16, 17-year-old boys records so early for a fucking plant. Get the fuck out of here, man. Stop that shit, yo. And then you got the 3 strikes in some states still. Now you're a felon. At 18, you're a felon. You can never own a fucking gun. You can never fucking vote. You're hardly ever going to get a job. Now you're stuck in this repetitive cycle from trying to be a businessman, an entrepreneur, or just trying to have some fucking fun with the homies and chill, because everybody does it. So if you're not going to legalize it for recreational, then decriminalize it where it's just a low-end misdemeanor and you get a ticket, like for jaywalking. You know what I'm saying? If it is a small amount. Now, if a motherfucker got like 15 pounds trying to traffic some shit, I can understand that. But still, it's like, dude, it's too harsh, the penalties. You know what I'm saying? And this war on drugs been locking up niggas since the late 70s. You know what I'm saying? On some crazy shit, like, and this whole fucking shit is just for that. You know what I'm saying? So you factor in the war on drugs, then you factor in private for-profit prisons and how that balance out. You know what I'm saying? It make weed more illegal. And that's man. But they sell cigarettes like it ain't shit. My uncle went to Canada. He got some family up in Canada, yo. He brought a pack of cigarettes, yo. Cigarettes in Canada, I think he said cost him like $18 US, or 12 or 14. He said some crazy ass number, like in the teens. And here, motherfuckers paid like $7, $8. But he was like, yo, I think he said that shit was like $14 or some shit for a pack of cigarettes. And then he said the cigarettes are but so fucking big. And then he said on a box of the cigarettes, it has a picture of what a lung looks like with cancer. And I was like, these motherfuckers trying to tell you, dog. But you know what I'm saying? But they sell them shits like it ain't nothing. Wow. That's crazy. You know the corporate interests are always going to be maintained and protected by the establishment, you know? I used to smoke cigarettes. I ain't even gonna lie, yo. But I can't do that shit no more, man. For one, them shits is highly, highly unhealthy for you. And for two, it's just like you just, I don't know, you paying this big ass corporation, you know, paying into this $1 billion fucking death machine just to kill yourself. I should be spending my money on something else other than cigarettes. Yo, what's up? What up? What up? What up? What? You know where I came to see. Damn. Yo, that granny painting is in the basement. Somebody was asking about another piece too. I was gonna dig some of those out, but I got too much shit in here now, man. I can't keep all those shits in here. I try to keep the newer stuff up, cause I'm getting ready. I'm telling you, man, gotta keep pushing this shit fast as I can, so I can get ready for this show. Yeah. But nobody wants to vote for this shit. I can. Once again, man, it's just a cultural thing, yo.
I don't think it's smart as a societal issue is that we legalize a drug. It is a drug. And
it's not a drug.
For some people, it's recreational, like drinking alcohol. For others, it's much more serious, and it can be.
By my count, about 8 or 9 Democratic senators who are, at the least, no.
All right, it is. For some people, it's like, you know, like drinking alcohol. But for, you know, alcohol is way much more serious, man. You know how many fatalities are caused by drunk drivers each year? You know how many people have motherfucking cirrhosis of the liver and all other kind of shit from goddamn being addicted to alcohol? Goddamn, how many teenagers die each year from alcohol poisoning because they're trying to go out and party when they're 21 and see how much fucking liquor they can drink? You know what I'm saying? But it can be much more dangerous. Bitch, bad comparison. Bad comparison. Yo, triple L.
Or
bad comparison.
You got a better count than me because I haven't done a count yet.
Right.
And we really haven't presented anything to get a real count. I know I have senators that have concerns, but realize I have 25 members. So if I had 8 that are off, I need 3 Republicans.
Right.
And there are votes on the other side of the aisle for this.
Well, I personally oppose the legalization of marijuana for recreational use. I've been very clear about that because of a whole slew of medical and other impacts.
So that's one Republican down.
and every member of my caucus will be a vote of conscience.
But having said that, do you know of any whose consciences have guided them Jiminy Cricket style to a yes?
That's your job to find out.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do over here.
And now you've got one down.
And there you have it, far from a slam dunk. We'll keep you in the loop as we find out more in the weeks and months to come.
The money, New Jersey. Just think about the money.
Marijuana, basically catnip for people. It has gained increasing acceptance in recent years. In fact, one small bright spot on election night was pro-marijuana referenda passing in 8 states.
It's official!
A big win for lovers of weed.
Well, we are really excited. I mean, this is a huge victory, not just for Californians, but for really the country and the world.
Everybody here should be so excited by this.
It's a little weird that those celebrations happened the same night that Trump was elected. It's like celebrating your baseball team winning on the deck of the sinking Titanic. Bit of a mixed bag today, but still, go Sox, Yankees suck. Now, as it stands, 44 states now have some form of medical marijuana law, and 8 have laws allowing recreational use. And that is good news. The war on drugs was futile, expensive, and imposed overly harsh penalties, especially on African Americans, who police data suggest are over 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession. Although, interestingly, white people are 1,000,000 times more likely to be shocked by that statistic. And this is clearly no longer a fringe issue.
In 1969, a Gallup poll showed 12% favored legalization. Today, it's 60%.
Exactly. Marijuana is something we've just all gradually decided is okay. Like Mark Wahlberg as a serious actor. Sure, I've decided I'm fine with that. But the legality of marijuana is actually much more fraught than you may think. In fact, if you have marijuana right now, even if you are acting completely legally according to your state, you may still be in serious jeopardy. And that's not your weed-induced paranoia talking. You could lose your home, job, or possessions, Greg. And yeah, I know I'm freaking the shit out of any stoned viewer named Greg right now. But that is not a bad thing, because this story is genuinely worth worrying about. And let's begin with going back to why marijuana is so heavily regulated.
Because no matter what
it was legal.
Because no matter what the states say, you know what I'm saying, they can change laws on the state level. If the feds come in, it's still on a federal drug list. So yeah, it doesn't really matter.
The start of the 20th century, but anti-drug hysteria, fueled partly by racist stereotypes about who was using it, led to it being gradually outlawed around the country. And naturally, it was Richard Nixon, the Mozart of racially motivated lawmaking, who targeted it in his war on drugs for reasons that he was open about.
Can't believe this dude is actually dropping the real shit. Like, yo, motherfuckers, everybody knows the war on drugs and marijuana prohibition, all that shit was to lock motherfuckers up. Who? What kind of motherfuckers? Motherfuckers who look like me. Because marijuana makes black men want to rape white women. And it's like, no, that's not how it goes, Richard Nixon.
In conversations he inexplicably recorded.
One of the bastards are out to legalize marijuana. Wait a minute, what? Where should go?
Marijuana, basically catnip for people. It was gained in...
Was it white for you?
At the federal level, they are still seen as criminal enterprises. So if banks took their deposit, in conversations he inexplicably recorded.
That's the funny thing, every one of the bastards are out to legalize marijuana Jewish. What's the Christ is the matter with the Jews, Bob? What is the matter with them? I suppose because most of them are psychiatrists. You know, they're submitting all the great psychiatrists are Jewish. By God, we are going to get the marijuana thing. And I want to get it right square in the pussy.
Yes. Quick historical footnote. You know who he's talking to there? Billy Bush. Yeah. Turns out people just open up to that guy. Always have. Now, Nixon signed the Controlled Substances Act in 1970, and it's still in effect today. Marijuana is classified as a Schedule 1 drug, the highest classification alongside heroin. Schedule 2, a step down, features drugs like cocaine and methamphetamine. And marijuana is not a Schedule 1 any more than a hedgehog is an apex predator. You're not scaring anyone, Roland. Get a tattoo. But that federal law is constantly clashing with new state laws, and it's causing big problems. For instance, legal marijuana businesses have struggled to get bank accounts because at the federal level, they are still seen as criminal enterprises. So if banks took their deposits, that could be considered money laundering. And this has meant that businesses had to operate all cash.
100% of our revenue comes in cash. This is federal taxes that we pay in cash. Also our payroll, when we pay all 12 employees, they're getting envelopes of cash. These are state taxes.
That is a shitty way to be forced to do business. On the suspicious scale, cash-stuffed envelopes rank somewhere between unfurled hundreds dusted in white powder and a wad of damp wands containing a single pubic hair. And if you're wondering why he was talking about paying his federal taxes, yeah, amazingly, under federal tax law, you must declare income even if the source of it is illegal. The tax code even has provisions like, if you receive a bribe, include it in your income. And if you steal property, you must report its fair market value. Which seems such an obvious trap to catch criminals. It should really be listed on the form as, this is a trap, are you really this stupid? Oh my God, you're filling out a federal form admitting guilt, aren't you, you dumb, dumb idiot? So marijuana businesses have all the tax liabilities of other businesses, but what they don't get is one major advantage.
The agency bars them from making most normal business deductions.
You know, you could end up with a tax bill far more than, you know, any potential profit you could ever make.
That's right. You can't deduct certain expenses, and that can mean that you pay double the amount of tax that you would if you were selling any other product. And just think about that. That means the shop where you bought your weed may pay double the amount of taxes paid by the shop where you ordered that shitty pizza, Greg. Yeah, I'm talking to you again, Greg. I told you this was important. Pay attention. And it is not just businesses facing difficulties, it's customers too. Just look at Brandon Coates, who was paralysed from a car accident as a teenager. Now, he had a prescription for medical marijuana, but he was fired from his job at the Dish Network after he failed a drug test.
What was it like for you when they said, we don't want you to work here anymore?
Well, it was devastating. I mean, it's hard enough for somebody like me to get a job. People look at me like they probably don't think that I can do what I can, you know?
Did you think because you had a medical marijuana card that you had license to go ahead and use it?
Well, I was under the impression that we had passed the law and that we had made it legal.
Yeah. It's frankly understandable that he thought he was doing nothing wrong. The state had given him a license to use medical marijuana legally, and yet he got fired anyway. And also, he couldn't turn to the Americans with Disabilities Act for help because that is a federal law and it doesn't protect marijuana use. All of which is pretty frustrating. That's like driving exactly the speed limit and getting pulled over by a cop who tells you, sorry, the federal speed limit is 3 and the legal age to drive is 62 and also you have to be drunk. Surprise, you're fucking under arrest now. And even if you are only dealing with your government at the state level, decades of enforcing anti-drug laws can result in local officials making big mistakes, as 2 Michigan parents, one of whom treated his epileptic seizures with marijuana, discovered in 2013.
Steve and Maria Green of Lansing helplessly watched as their infant daughter Bree was taken from their care. The reason given, the state-sanctioned medical marijuana user's home was too dangerous for their 6-month-old because of the plants inside.
It would place our residents at a higher rate of armed robbery and therefore was an imminent danger for my child to be.
What?
It's just completely absurd.
What?
If you have valuable items in your home, we might take your children. Although I will say, that is going to add some real excitement to the Price is Right from now on. Oh, I really want that entertainment centre, but I love my kids. Fuck it, sorry, Tommy. Daddy's going for the plasma screen. It's a dream, son, a dream of mine. And look, I know that some people will say, well, hold on. The medical efficacy of marijuana needs a lot more study. And that is true. The problem is, it's very difficult to do that because, again, federal law is standing in the way. To study marijuana, you need approval from 3 different federal agencies, which can take years. In fact, one scientist was forced to wait 6 years just to begin studying its effects on PTSD, which is a long time. I frankly wouldn't blame her if she just said, fuck it, I'm studying does chocolate during sex help red wine make you lose weight. At least that way I'll get to go on the Today Show. And if you are conducting a federally approved study on marijuana, you can only get it from one place.
Dr. Mahmoud Osoli oversees the University of Mississippi's marijuana project. Its mission? To aid law enforcement and produce pot for federal study, mostly related to addiction.
For all intents and purposes, you're the government's sole producer of marijuana.
It's true. The sole source of government-sanctioned marijuana is that guy at the University of Mississippi. So please update your stereotypes about the University of Mississippi, which I believe is the official slogan of the University of Mississippi. And while researchers wait for marijuana to study whether it helps with PTSD, plenty of veterans will tell you it absolutely does. Take Danny Belcher. He is a Vietnam vet who'd been prescribed a great deal of medication for pain and depression, but, as he told the Kentucky legislature in 2014, he found that when he tried marijuana, it started really helping him.
When I start smoking that
I do it in
weed,
my bowl of pot in my house, and if I wake up at night and have nightmare, when I'm wringing wet with sweat, and I see Kramer, his dead body, Rodriguez, his dead body, if that nightmare gets so bad, I can't wake up, I realize it's just a nightmare, I will light that pipe up, I'll be a criminal, I'll go back to sleep, and the next morning, I will get up at 6 o'clock like I always do. My 4 days a week, I go to the gym, I run, I help other veterans. I couldn't do that if I was on them damn drugs the VA had me on.
Exactly. And for all the talk you hear of marijuana being a gateway drug, in his case, that gateway led to peaceful sleep, rigorous exercise, and community service. Pretty nice fucking gate, it turns out. Nice one to walk through if you get the chance. Now, you may have noticed that he said he's acting like a criminal there, which is a little odd, because Kentucky actually has a medical marijuana law on the books. But the shortcomings of that law touch on many of the reasons why legal marijuana can actually be a bit of a grey area. For a start, Kentucky's law has many restrictions. It only applies to one marijuana product, and it requires a written order or a prescription. And that is a real problem, because under federal law, it is technically illegal for any doctor to write you a prescription for marijuana. Now, so most states, they get around that by just calling for a recommendation or a certification, which doctors can give you. But even if Kentucky's law did that, if Danny went to his doctors at the VA, they couldn't give him anything because they're a federal hospital, and federal policy prohibits VA doctors from even recommending marijuana regardless of the state law and regardless of their medical opinion, which again is a bit weird. A doctor shouldn't be ignored because he recommends marijuana. A doctor should only be ignored because he is televised. We all agree on that. We're all on the same page on that one, I think. But here's the thing, it gets worse. Even if Danny had a private doctor and Kentucky rewrote its law, where would he get marijuana from? Because Kentucky's law also neglected to set up any system for legal marijuana distribution, so he'd have to obtain it from somewhere else. But where would he do that? And how? Now, he could have it shipped, right? Except, no, that would be a federal crime. But what if he flew to a state where marijuana is completely legal and just brought it back to Kentucky? Here's the thing, no, again, that is also a federal crime. Could he drive to a neighbouring state to get what he needs? Unfortunately, no, because 2 of those states have total prohibitions on marijuana, and the rest don't currently recognise out-of-state patients. Now, if you are thinking, well, hold on, could he train a carrier pigeon to carry the pot from Colorado? Yes, that's a good idea, and cool bird stamp. But, as a practical matter there, no. Partly because it's illegal, and partly because you know the bird will eat it on the way, stop flying, and spend the whole night giggling about how owls seem like they have glasses, but, like, don't have glasses? And that's crazy, right? They don't know, but it's there, right? The point is, if you live in Kentucky, despite there being a law that ostensibly gives access to medical marijuana, there's virtually no legal way for you to get it. Now, things fractionally improved toward the end of the Obama administration, because his general attitude was essentially this.
We still have federal laws that classify marijuana as an illegal substance, but we're not going to spend a lot of resources trying to turn back decisions that have been made at the state level on this issue.
Right. His attitude to pot was basically, I'm not going to hassle you over this unless you make me. Essentially the same policy as a security guard at a Dave Matthews concert. And his administration issued guidelines in that space. By the end of his term, it was actually a little easier to study marijuana and for dispensaries to get bank accounts. But those guidelines weren't permanent, and that could be a real problem. Because our new Attorney General is Jeff Sessions, the concept of golf expressed in man form. And he has been pretty clear where he stands on marijuana.
This is not a non-dangerous drug. This drug is dangerous. You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. And and trying to send that message with clarity that good people don't smoke marijuana. Well, Lady Gaga says she's addicted to it and is not harmless.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff. But Lady Gaga also said, I believe that men and women deserve to love each other equally, as well as touch me in the dark, put your hands all over my body parts. So please, Jeff, if you're going to live your life according to Gaga quotes, accept the entire canon. And listen, I'm not saying there shouldn't be laws that place sensible restrictions on marijuana as there are with other substances, but our federal laws desperately need to be brought up to date. And perhaps there's no clearer sense of just how establishment that view is becoming than this.
The Cannabis Caucus is a bipartisan effort to protect state marijuana laws and blow out outdated federal prohibitions on weed. Believe it or not, these are the guys pushing for legalized pot in Congress.
Yes. There is now a Cannabis Caucus in DC, and it's co-chaired by these four narcs. And if even an 83-year-old Republican from Alaska has come around on this issue, then it's probably time for our laws to catch up. And there are a bunch of ideas out there. One bill proposed just this week would remove marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act and officially rename the ATF the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Marijuana, Firearms and Explosives, which does really make sense. Just get all the awesome stuff together in one place. In fact, why not keep going and make it the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Marijuana, Firearms, Explosives, Monster Trucks, Motorcycle Jumps, and sick-ass leather jackets with tigers on them. And by the way, that jacket is even sicker in person. This is my jacket. This was me this morning. This is an actual $6,000 Gucci jacket. And for anyone stupid enough to buy one of these, it's worthless now. I just made your jacket uncool and worthless by wearing it. But that bill is just one proposal. Fixing all of this is a huge undertaking. Marijuana laws affect everything from environmental regulations to international treaties.
Like
ideally, we should also go back and expunge records of people convicted of low-level marijuana offences in the past. And all of this, I know, is a lot of work, which is why we should really start right now. Because I would argue that it is absolutely worth it for people like Brandon Coates and for people like Danny Belcher and perhaps most of all for Greg, who has been freaking the fuck out this whole time. I can see you, Greg, and I can hear your thoughts.
Yeah, television is weird.
We have today with us Scott Rutter. Now, Scott, if you're a political fan, Scott was an assemblyman. What district, Scott?
8th Legislative District.
Is that my district?
It's your district, yeah. Still is.
Yeah. But you're no longer
I'm just not there.
Which is what you're doing now. You're the president of Cannabusiness New Jersey?
New Jersey Cannabusiness Association.
Okay. This is happening, people. This, is not a theoretical thing anymore. I mean, it still is because we don't have a governor in who would sign this bill, but the bill's already been introduced, and it's going to be probably tweaked with and messed with and changed along the way. But the Senate bill came out yesterday.
Yep, Senator Nick Scutari, he's a Democrat from the 22nd District. He introduced his legislation yesterday. He had a packed conference. 101.5 was represented there. And yeah, it was great. He's a great delivery of what the bill will do and addressing some of the concerns that people have, what this bill will do, what the bill does not do, and how it would be implemented. Tax money is definitely a motivating factor for some, but I think no one would vote for a heroin bill, right? I mean, I would. Well, you may, but
I would, because I think the legalization of all of it is a lot safer than the prohibition of all of it.
Fair enough. There's a significant distinction. For example, in the history of mankind, no one has ever overdosed on cannabis. I mean, the drug enforcement...
I know Democrat has overdosed on tax money.
Not that I'm aware of.
But they're giving it their best shot.
Well, like I was saying, I'm going to go back from there. But no, the DEA's own website proves that no one's ever died of an overdose. And yet today, on average, 90 people will die from an opioid overdose, from prescription drugs as well as heroin.
How do you see this playing out?
Well, I see it playing out in similar fashion what you see out in Colorado. When you go out there, and I've been out there, I've been to Denver, I've been inside the dispensary stores, the retail stores. You know, they all have different themes about them. You can walk into one, it looks like an Apple store. You walk into another one, it's a health and wellness store.
And these smug guys all in the same color jacket.
Yeah, with little genius things.
Genius, could I help you with your weed?
Well, you have bud tenders. You have
bud tenders.
Oh, and they're very knowledgeable and enthusiastic people because they're this is their thing. And this is their world, and they're getting paid to do this. They're getting paid to educate people. So you have very
about their favorite thing.
About their favorite thing.
So you'll have stores like that around here in New Jersey. Some towns. Part of the bill is, if your town wants to adopt an ordinance, pass an ordinance banning it, they can.
Yeah, it'll be up to the local government to decide whether or not they want to have a dispensary store there or not.
And they'll give it a relook after 5 years.
Right.
But if you say, we're having it, no ordinance, then you got to wait 5 years because that business owner has invested in the business. And you don't want to pull the plug on him.
You don't want to pull the plug on that. You don't want to do that. And once they're in there, they're in there. You're not going to be able to repeal out from but you can say, at the 5 year mark, we're good, we're set. 3 is good for our town, 5 is good for our town, whatever the right number is for the town, and let the towns decide. But there will be towns, just like there are certain towns right now on the blue laws that don't allow alcohol being sales in their towns at all. So
one of the parts of the bill that I don't like is, because for me, again, it's not about the tax money, it's not about smoking weed, it's about the liberty and the freedom. Mm-hmm. But if I have an aunt or I have a condition myself that I want to grow a little myself, I don't have the money to go spend at the dispensary.
That's something that I find kind of weird, like in the northern states, that is different from down south. Now, where I'm from, our blue laws is you can't buy alcohol at all on Sunday, no time. For the whole 24 hours of Sunday, you can't purchase alcohol. But every other day of the week, yeah, there's alcohol everywhere, yo. Like every convenience store, every gas station, even fucking like the dollar store. You go to the Dollar General, they got beer and wine and that shit. It's like you can buy that shit fucking everywhere. Like say you go to the fucking, pull up to the gas station, get some gas, run in there, grab some chips and shit, and there's beer in the cooler with the drinks and stuff. But like up here is where I'm at now, it's not like that. You gotta go to like a beer distributor to get beer. Like most fucking convenience don't sell alcohol. I don't know, it's kind of weird as shit. Yeah, no booze on Sundays. Yeah, no time. All day. And it's weird too, like South Carolina, you can't buy electronics on Sundays before noontime. Like, so if you get up at 9:30 on Sunday morning and you need a boom box for your early morning cookout, you gotta wait till 12 o'clock before you can go buy any kind of electronics. South Carolina has some weird ass shit, man. I swear.
I'm going to grow a little myself and treat myself. I like to grow things. I like to grow tomatoes and all that sort of stuff. So let me try to grow some weed. This bill can't do that.
Well, this bill only addresses the recreational market. I think the medical market is where that fits in the best, because there you have people that physically need it for their particular ailment.
And you are allowed to grow it under those?
Not currently, but I think we should. We would absolutely want to see that amended to allow patients who are either, for whatever the reasons, I mean, they could be that they're too weak to leave their home, or they're disabled in some fashion, or they have financial challenges.
But some critics of the bill say that...
Understand, because I think that they thought this was going to be for everything, and it's not. This is purely for the recreational 21 and over market.
And the cynics like me would look at it and go, yeah, they don't want you to grow it at home because they don't get the tax money. The mafia doesn't get their vig.
Right. Well, the good news coming out of this, too, is the taxes will be on the rec side, but we're going to see taxes go away on the medical side.
Okay, good.
I think that's really important, because we don't tax medication in any other category except for marijuana in New Jersey.
Right.
So to see that going away and provide, and again, we have to do an amendment to the bill to do that on the medical side, but I think that's something we should do, and we should definitely be addressing. But the Senator Scutari's bill is strictly on the recreational side.
Now, the big risk, if you're going to get involved in cannabis business, is it's still illegal according to federal law. Mm-hmm. So if I invest all the money and I got a grow operation or I have a dispensary, We have an administration now that is not weed friendly. The Obama administration went out; they were weed friendly. As the Christie administration leaves, and they're not weed friendly, we have a weed friendly administration coming in on the state side, but the federal side.
Yeah, look, there's always going to be some level of risk as long as the federal government is making this a Schedule I illegal drug,
right,
which is ridiculous, Dennis, and I think you would definitely appreciate this part. The federal government has decided that marijuana is the same as heroin. It's a Schedule I drug, really the worst thing ever with no medical value, but we know for a fact there's medical value.
Right.
But what they've also done is they've made crack cocaine a Schedule II drug, which means, according to the federal government, crack cocaine is less harmful for you and less addictive than cannabis. So we know how the federal government's already laying this out. We know that they're wrong. And I think a lot of this is going, whether it's Jeff Sessions or anybody else, a lot of it's just a matter of education. We're seeing members of Congress standing up, both parties. So we have a bipartisan, bicameral coalition for marijuana in Congress right now that are looking to make sure that we don't have a Jeff Sessions type going in there and doing enforcement where they should not be enforced.
So if you've heard about weed becoming legal in New Jersey, somewhere down the road, they're serious about it. Guys like Scott are very serious about it. The legislature is serious about it. It would get signed with a new Democratic governor come January of 2018. That's less than a year away. But then it would take 360 days to be implemented.
It could. It could happen faster than that. I think the way that this bill lays it out is a very conservative approach. I think there are strategies we could employ that to shrink that time frame a little bit. But, just not to get everybody excited, it will take a while for the rules to get promulgated, applications to be released.
So, Democratic governor, more than likely, so we're talking about maybe a year from right now and a little further down the road.
I think we're going to start. Well, I think one of the great things about Senator Scutari's bill is it's going to allow the current operational dispensaries to apply for retail right off the bat. So we can start seeing retail sales as early as March, April next year.
So less than a year from right now.
Less than a year from right now.
It's Scott Rutter from New Jersey Cannabusiness. Go to his website. What was it again?
NewJerseyCannabusiness.com.
Scott, thanks.
Dennis, thank you very much.
A little bit of awkward silence never killed anybody. Just calm the fuck down. Mm-hmm. A Clockwork Orange? That shit is fucking crazy. If y'all never saw that movie, yo, it's a book. Read the book first. Get a copy of A Clockwork Orange. Most of you guys won't read the book, but even the movie is fucking crazy. But this right here comes from that movie, yo. Check that shit out, yo. That shit was crazy, yo. Yeah, Clockwork Orange, that shit is crazy.
Shit is what I still become a victim of the devilish verses. It's my curse to take your life and lay you in a crib. Demons taking over, just some killers from the fucking field. Damn, I think I'm crazy, covered in blood. Take my soul to hell. Shit is what I still become a victim of the devilish verses. It's my curse to take your life and lay you in a crib. Demons taking over, just some killers from the fucking field. The devil took my soul, I paid him in blood. Now I'm stuck in hell. Stand around your body while it decompose. Here to take your life, use a pussy, you ain't bad at hoe. All these bosses claiming that they spit this devil shit. Got a message for you, dog, you ain't nothing like this.
No. Let's not do that one.
Clear.
forever young? Well, for the relatively small price of $8,000, you might be able to.
The secret to reversing some effects of aging might be in the blood of the young.
3 new studies have found that blood from young mice can reverse symptoms of aging in older mice.
3 studies will be published this week in the journals Science and Nature, each exploring the regenerative properties of young blood.
The blood of the young can make the old young again. Are you kidding me? It sounds like out of a sci-fi movie or something.
So what is it in the blood? Do we know?
Peter Thiel here, a member of the PayPal Mafia, it's called. He's 48 years old, yet plans to live forever, 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 forever.
The process is called parabiosis, and there's a company called Ambrosia that is openly raising money to bring it to market. Parabiosis is a process of taking a young person's blood and putting it into your veins, into your cardiovascular system to rejuvenate your body with the essence of the young. What it really is modern vampirism.
It's a process of where you interchange blood. Like they've shown it in mice. If you take young
electrophoresis,
something like that,
yeah,
parabiosis.
Okay.
Parabiosis is where you interconnect the blood vessels between a young mouse and an old mouse, and you suddenly find, after they're exchanging blood back and forth all the time, the old mice get younger.
Wow.
Okay. Well, I believe this is because the young mice is providing the old mouse cells that have long telomeres. Okay, so it comes back to the telomeres. I'm hoping that we can do the same thing by just lengthening the telomeres in the cells you already have. But he's now doing this kind of clinical study with humans.
A Russian scientist claims to have created his own version of the fountain of youth. He says, when perfected, all you have to do is pop a pill to stay as youthful as you want. The medicine is currently undergoing tests, but could be on sale within a few years. RT's Natalia Novikova has been finding out more.
It looks complicated, and it is. It's almost a life's work for Vladimir Skulachov. 2 more years of testing, and the doctor thinks he will have finally cracked the enigma of aging. Let's get the science over with now. Apparently, it's all about how oxygen reacts in your body.
99% of the time, it turns into harmless water, but there's that 1% that turns into superoxide that later turns into very poisonous elements. So the task was to find an antioxidant that stops that process.
And we're really here to talk about not only anti-aging, but the concept of immortality. Tell me about the research you're doing. I know you're a big researcher in the biological arena, and some of the concerns we have about telomeres and how we can maybe alter or maybe extend the quality and the length of life.
Well, first let me say that immortality is a big thing. Become
To those who know, the good life comes from the moments you live, not the things you own.
Immortal, that's going to take more than just curing our aging process. We're going to have to figure out ways of uploading our brains to computers and things like that when we get run over by trucks and stuff like that. So aging isn't going to make us immortal. Aging is just going to, the curing the aging is just going to make us live healthy longer, but we can still be hit by meteorites and things like that. So we got to do a lot more than just that. But the thing that I'm focused on is definitely trying to find a way to lengthen our telomeres. Telomeres have been shown to be the clock that ticks inside of all of our cells that control the aging process. And we know that because we've lengthened them. Telomeres are the very tips of our chromosomes. You can think of a shoelace. Chromosome is a shoelace, and the caps on your shoelaces are equivalent to the telomeres on our chromosomes. When the caps on the shoelaces get worn away, your shoelace falls apart. Same is true with our chromosomes. So keeping the telomeres long is what we're trying to do, and we have found that by lengthening the telomeres, we've now actually been able to turn old mice into young mice, and that's not just making them more energetic, like a lot of products you hear about that increase energy level, they've reversed aging, but mice got reversed in their aging in every way imaginable. They looked younger, they ran around like they were younger, they could breed again. One thing we showed when I was at Geron Corporation, where we first discovered that astragalus root contains TA65, and so one of the things we did there is we showed that when you keep telomeres long, you increase healing. wound healing occurs. We would do things, experiments like we'd grow artificial skin in a petri dish, and then we'd take a nail and scratch through it, creating a wound, and then we watched to see how fast that wound healed. And we found that the telomerase-treated cells, to lengthen the telomeres, healed at a much faster rate. I mean, at the P equals 0.000001 level, I mean, it was so dramatically different that keeping telomeres long increases the healing process.
So, Larry, you've been taking it for 18 months now, a year and a half. How does it feel?
It feels good. I think the second year is better than the first. I feel better the last 6 months than I did the year before. I think that the second year seems to be accumulating, and my joints, I don't worry about them in the gym anymore, and I have the energy to get through the day without crashing, and I feel good. I have a positive outlook, and I feel like I look good, and my wife's looking good too, so it's been a great experience.
There's the possibility that in the future you could still talk to the people you love forever. If you upload the human mind into a computer, you could create a copy of yourself as an avatar. Now, your family might still be able to have conversations with you, even though you no longer exist in the material world anymore, but in digital space. In some sense, a part of you has become immortal. So clearly, we are entering a world where we can transcend space and time and even our own mortality.
We discovered this enzyme telomerase to lengthen them. Well, after we showed that we could turn old cells into young cells at that point, at the very initial stage, the next thing we did is we took the antisense of telomerase and showed that we could kill every cancer cell by causing it to die of accelerated aging. We inhibited the telomerase to cause the telomeres to get really short at an accelerated rate, and the cancer cells died, and it had no effect on normal cells.
Wow.
Because normal cells don't have telomerase.
Right.
Well, everybody said, wow, if inhibiting telomerase kills cancer, then telomerase...
Hey, did you ever hear from Michelob Ultra? I got it. So I'm training for this big role. It's Michelob Ultra commercial.
Must be the cause of the cancer.
Oh.
That's the exact opposite. We now know hundreds and hundreds of scientific publications showing that it's the lack of telomerase that causes cancer. It's short telomeres that cause cancer. Keeping your telomeres long by keeping telomerase being produced actually decreases our risk of cancer.
It turns out that we know what aging is. Aging is the buildup of error. That's all aging is. The buildup of genetic and cellular error. As cells begin to age, they begin to get sluggish because genetic mistakes start to build up. Now, cells, however, have a repair mechanism. They can repair damage to their cells. Otherwise, we would all basically rot very soon after birth. However, even the repair mechanisms eventually get gummed up, and then the cell really starts to get old as a consequence. So then the question is, can you accelerate cell repair? That is another branch of gerontology which is being looked at, using genes and using chemicals to accelerate the repair mechanisms. For example, if I take any organism on the planet Earth, from yeast cells to spiders, insects, rabbits, dogs, and even monkeys now, and I reduce their caloric intake by 30%, they live 30% longer. In fact, the only organism which has not yet been deliberately tested by scientists are Homo sapiens. All the other species obey this basic rule. You starve them to death, they live longer. This is independent of telomerase. This is a function of the wear and tear that we have on the cells. And this is the only known way of actually deliberately extending the lifespan of any organisms almost at will. Now, what we want is a genetic way of mimicking this mechanism without having to starve yourself. Because how many people do you know would be willing to starve themselves in order to live 30% longer? Not too many. So then the question is, are there genes that control this process? And the answer is apparently yes. There's something called the sirtuin genes, SIR2 being the most prominent of them. They in turn stimulate certain enzymes
You. What's up? Let me paint you. Huh? To Wilkes-Barre? Yeah. Yeah, no problem. What time you trying to be over there? Alright. Shit, I'm gonna, as soon as I get wrapped up over here, I'll hit you up and let you know I'm on the way. Alright, I'll see you in a little while. Alright. Why is my YouTube buffering? Got it.
Up, and then the cell really starts to get old as a consequence. So then the question is, can you accelerate cell repair? That is another branch of gerontology which is being looked at, using genes and using chemicals to accelerate the repair mechanisms. For example, if I take any organism on the planet Earth, from yeast cells to spiders, insects, rabbits, dogs, and even monkeys now, and I reduce their caloric intake by 30%, they live 30% longer. In fact, the only organism which has not yet been deliberately tested by scientists are Homo sapiens. All the other species obey this basic rule. You starve them to death, they live longer. This is independent of telomerase. This is a function of the wear and tear that we have on the cells. And this is the only known way of actually deliberately extending the lifespan of any organisms almost at will. Now, what we want is a genetic way of mimicking this mechanism without having to starve yourself. Because how many people do you know would be willing to starve themselves in order to live 30% longer? Not too many. So then the question is, are there genes that control this process? And the answer is apparently yes. There's something called the sirtuin genes, SIR2 being the most prominent of them. They in turn stimulate certain enzymes, among them resveratrol, which is found in red wine, for example. What I am saying is, we are now finding pieces of the fountain of youth, tantalizing clues that mean that perhaps in the coming decades, we might be able to actually unravel the aging process.
When I first heard the word transhumanism, like a lot of people, I was a little overwhelmed. Was this science even possible, or was it just science fiction? It was immediately clear that if this technology were, in fact, real, these developments might lend themselves as an aid to humanity in the ceaseless battle for health and long life. But on the other hand, something in my gut sensed that there could be another side to all of this.
In the time it takes to drink my coffee, I can save tons at Kroger.com. Because every day, I can choose from over $400 in digital coupons.
Start saving more today at Kroger.com.
When something appears too good to be true, it often is. So questions formed in my mind. What were the moral implications of becoming something other than Homo sapiens sapien, humans, what we are today? Would we be human at all if the agenda of these scientists were met? Well, I decided to investigate the issue, and I started reaching out to experts on all sides of the movement, and I was surprised by what some of them had to say.
Transhumanism is basically a worldview developed by those who want to consider living longer and applying the skilled sciences and emerging technologies and bringing this about through principled values and ethics. Transhumanism as a philosophical point of view is a codified philosophy that pretty much does the same thing. As a philosophy, it is seeking knowledge and truth about ways we can look at improving the human condition, extending life, improving environmental situations, our transportation, communication, ways we can work as a species to better enrich and protect and sustain our species. As a worldview, it's based on the enthusiasm and proactivity of people throughout the world who want to put good use to the sciences and technologies that are emerging. Therefore, it has become a worldview.
Transhumanism is a utopian and a neo-eugenic social movement that presumes that it will be able to create a post-human species for the betterment of humankind. I think there are four primary elements to the movement. Number one might be called radical self-design. That is turning myself, if I want to, into a purple and plaid entity with wings. The second would be immortality, the idea that somehow we could recreate our biology so that we can live hundreds of years, if not become immortal. The third is a procreative redesign, that is presuming the right to create our progeny to suit our needs in the future, what we think would be a better human being, either for them perhaps, but also mainly for us. For example, the person who's a frustrated musician trying to redesign his embryo so that when the child grows up, they can be Beethoven. And I think the fourth is kind of a neo-deity project, the idea that we can become gods and we can endow life with certain attributes that we think are better. There's a certain hubris to the entire movement. There's certainly utopianism, which is always dangerous, and there's eugenics because it denies the idea of human exceptionalism and the unique appearance.
California Wine Country.
We're Four Pines, we're the beer guys, and with our partners, Sabre Astronautics, that's us, the space guys who...
Russia reveals Antarctica is not what we're being told. Antarctica is not what people thought, according to Russia. Apparently, the governments of the USA and Russia have been keeping what Antarctica really is top secret, as both countries have known what is really going on, but they have never spoken out until now. Hidden continent underneath ice of Antarctica. Russia recently revealed that there is another continent hidden under the ice in Antarctica, and many people think that this is where an ancient civilization that fell lies. This is what has been said to be what has attracted the interest of some of the great.
The Gaia hypothesis. Are we at one with the Earth? Is our relationship with our planet symbiotic? This may sound like the ramblings of a dirty, tree-fondling hippie, but the idea to which we are referring is a genuine scientific theory put forward in the 1970s by chemist James Lovelock and microbiologist Lynn Margulis. In recent years, this theory has been tested rigorously, with mixed results leading to an uncertain conclusion. So let's investigate what we know and what we don't know about the Gaia hypothesis. Number 3, the theory. Also known as Gaia theory, Gaia principle, or Gaia used to hang out with me, but I stopped when he wouldn't quit touching me. This idea originally proposed that our planet's habitability was regulated by the presence of life. Specifically, that living things help maintain certain processes which make the Earth livable. This was later expanded to include all Earth systems, not just those affected by living creatures. Chemical reactions, physical forces, biological entities, and human sentience all reportedly contribute to the sustainability of our world. Organisms co-evolve with their environment by influencing it, and this, in turn, influences their evolution through the Darwinian process. We are not individual organisms living on a rock. We are all part of the same system, including the rock itself. You, trees, algae, oceans, pigeons, hurricanes, walnuts, giant clams, and uranium are all one single self-regulating entity with one aim: to maintain the conditions for life. Gaia doesn't claim this entity has consciousness, but it does ascribe a common goal to all living things along with Earth's processes. The Gaia theory also stops short of referring to the Earth in humanistic terms, which is tempting given the similarities. Like Earth, humans have living things in and outside of our bodies which help keep us alive, but we have little to no control over how they work. Still, the Earth is not considered alive in the sense that it has a human-like mind, or that it is one single entity. It may be more accurate to describe it as a hive mind, a collection of organisms, processes, and other things which all buy into the same idea, that life on our planet must go on. Number 2, atmospheric evidence. The Gaia principle could be seen as nothing more than an attempt to reframe how mankind sees the Earth, how it sees itself, how we think about the environment, and how we treat all life throughout the world and beyond. Indeed, James Lovelock admitted he'd made a fudge up by calling it the Gaia hypothesis in the first place, since this reference to a mythical Greek goddess who personified the idea of Mother Nature hardly inspires scientific confidence. It's like having a theory of how the moon is made of something different and calling it cheese-based inquiries of a distant cheddar world. Nevertheless, while the Gaia hypothesis was initially criticized, it is now studied seriously as a testable explanation for how Earth works. The theory states that Earth is regulated by life and its own processes at every level: the biosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, and the amusingly named pedosphere, which is the top layer of Earth's soil, not somewhere Chris Hansen would go looking for creepy guys packing Mike's Hard Lemonade. Because Gaia makes specific claims regarding the processes going on within these layers, we can investigate them using rigorous scientific techniques. For example, we know that living organisms affect things like the atmosphere. The photosynthetic bacteria present during Earth's Precambrian stage completely rejigged our carbon dioxide and nitrogen-heavy atmosphere into the oxygen-rich one we enjoy today. Gaia states that Earth's current atmospheric composition is kept steady by the presence of life which requires this specific composition, since all atmospheric gases other than noble gases are either made or processed by such beings. Gaia also rejects claims that Earth's stable atmosphere is due to chemical equilibrium, like it is on lifeless planets. Oxygen is highly reactive, and it should have combined with the gases and minerals found in Earth's atmosphere and crust. And yet, the only place where the Earth is suitable for most plants and animals is down in the lower reaches of the atmosphere, where living things interact with it. Further support for Gaia is given through the involvement of living organisms in the carbon cycle, with various organisms including lichen, algae, and coral reefs taking a major part in the process, alongside carbonate rocks and those giant earth zits we call volcanoes. These organisms have evolved to take part in this process, and in turn, the Earth has furnished them with the conditions they need to carry on living. Number 1. Get salty. More evidence in support of the Gaia hypothesis can be found within Earth's oceans and through the measurement of our global temperatures. It has now been noted that ocean salinity has remained steady at 3.4% for a long time, despite the fact that by now, river salts should have made them saltier than an InfoWars Twitter thread. Gaia proponents believe the explanation lies in bacteria colonies, who may work to form salt plains, thus lessening ocean salinity. A theory proposed by Kenneth J. Sue even claims that the discovery of large salt formations at the bottom of the Mediterranean have transformed it into Earth's Gaia kidney, with later studies indicating that huge depositions of salt like this take place every 100 million years or so. Regarding temperature, Sue also points to how Earth's oceans have never been too cold or too hot since life began as further evidence for Gaia. Sue believes Gaia is endothermic. It absorbs heat, since all life on Earth has been composed of a succession of organisms which either cooled or heated the planet depending on what was needed. When Earth was too warm, air conditioning organisms like anaerobic bacteria and trees brought the temperature down. In contrast, during ice ages or when someone left the front door open, methanogenic bacteria and even Homo sapiens could be said to be working to warm things up. Since life began on Earth, the energy output of the sun has increased 25 to 35%. Conversely, Earth's surface temperature has remained habitable. This is similar to what happens within the human body, with various homeostatic processes beyond our control working to keep us at the temperature we need to remain alive. In further support of these theories, Lovelock cites several tests ranging from the Viking Mars missions of 1975 through to ocean-land selenium transportation experiments performed at the dawn of the millennium. Still, the naysayers are not convinced. Stephen Jay Gould believes Gaia is merely a metaphor for how a habitable, life-sustaining world works. Evolutionary and molecular biologist Ford Doolittle also says there's no genetic evidence to suggest the existence of the unconscious feedback loop responses Lovelock believes are crucial. Furthermore, professional troll and occasional plaything of President Garrison, Richard Dawkins, contends that organisms acting en masse to regulate the Earth requires foresight and planning, which our current understanding of evolution directly contradicts. More recently, arguments against Gaia have focused on life forms which actively wreck their environment rather than regulating it. There has even been a counter-theory proposed called the Medea hypothesis, which claims life is detrimental to the maintenance of habitable planetary conditions. And if you consider how much damage man alone has caused to the habitability of our own world, this argument seems hard to disagree with. There is no doubt that all organisms react to their environment, not that many are capable of affecting it. But the idea that both are involved in a direct and continuous feedback loop needs more investigation. And if one day the Gaia hypothesis is ever proven true, mankind will need to reconsider its place in the world more than ever before. Because, according to some observations by Gaia proponents, Earth is more than willing to dispense with our kind. We're going to investigate this possibility in our bonus video, Dispensable Humans, which you can watch in our Patreon page at patreon.com/Strange Mysteries. For a $2 a month pledge, which you can cancel at any time, you'll get to watch this and all of our bonus content, which goes deeper and darker into every topic than YouTube allows. If you don't want to donate, then bullshit.
We know you wanted more. Strange Mysteries on YouTube and our Patreon bonus videos weren't enough to quench your search for truth.
to give you that sense of awe and wonder again, to go past what you thought was the end, to give you the answers you seek, but which only lead to more questions. That's why we just up the stakes. Chemicals of reality. Reality, consciousness, brains. What else is there? Ask yourself that question. Perhaps that's all there really is, but perhaps everything else is found within a place where these ideas, these things, overlap. Some thing, some place that is undefinable. To many people, altering certain chemicals in their brains produces what they would simply call hallucinations. In fact, what we're going to discuss specifically used to be called the businessman's trip, as one could enjoy it. Come down and put your pants back on in the time it takes to eat lunch. It wasn't taken seriously, well, unless, of course, you started digging. And some people, including us, did. Already, though, to many people, this chemical is special amongst others. Very special. To them, it represents something more meaningful and incredible, as if it's the gateway to the next level of consciousness. The ticket to a higher reality barely explored by most humans. It is the entry point to a new reality, visited by only a select few whose mind...
Anchor. It's an audio app, and people can start their podcast on it. You just record it, you press one button, and it puts you on iTunes and Spotify and everything.
Really?
The way Anchor works is so crazy. You literally put the phone to your ear.
Xenobiology. How we are making aliens. Searching for extraterrestrial life in the universe is a pretty arduous task. First, you need to identify where life might have formed. Then you must scour this planet and add a bazillion more before you get lucky and stumble across something which looks like a microscopic organism. But what if this life form came with us on the ship? How do we know it got here organically? Where are the rest of the aliens? Man, this sounds too much like hard work. Let's just make a bunch of aliens here on Earth instead, via the exciting new field of xenobiology. Number 3, how it works. Xenobiology is an offshoot of synthetic biology, which is a cross-disciplinary field involving both biology and engineering. They should call it bioengineering or something. Oh wait, they already did that. Bioengineering involves playing around with the molecular biology of an organism, tweaking its genetics, or making some other kind of unnatural change to a biological entity. Xenobiology takes this one step further, since it involves the study and creation of a brand new organism, one which does not, nor may ever, occur naturally anywhere in the universe. A creature whose origins lay entirely within the minds of men and women, and all the other genders which exist these days. Some of the systems xenobiologists use to create new genetic structures and chemistries are not based on the DNA, RNA, 20 amino acid framework, which underpins life on Earth. Xenobiology seeks to create a new code and or framework for carrying genetic information. These are called XNAs, or xenonucleic acids. Rather than being comprised of deoxyribonucleic acid or ribonucleic acid, as in the case of DNA and RNA, we now have new systems to play with, such as hexose nucleic acid, HNA, threose nucleic acid, TNA, and cyclohexanyl nucleic acid, or CENA. Wait a minute. Cena? John Cena? The wrestler? Holy crap. If John Cena is right and we can't see him, does that mean Cena is the secret to invisibility? Cracked it. I are so smart. Another form of xenobiology involves adding new letters to the existing genetic alphabet, which forms our DNA's base pairs. The current alphabet contains 4 letters, G, T, C, and A. Xenobiology seeks to add new letters based on synthetic nucleotides, such as P and Z, whose creation was outlined in the Journal of the American Chemical Society back in 2015. And this is just the start. A 2008 study conducted by Aaron LeConte and others at the Scripps Research Institute suggests up to 60 new bases could be added to the genetic alphabet, with 3,600 base pairs enabled as a result. Not only does this hint at an exciting future for the field of genetics, it also means we might one day be able to spell out a bunch of swear words using nothing but DNA base pairs. And really, isn't that the goal of all modern science? As well as the examples mentioned already, there are further xenobiological studies being conducted into the creation of new versions of the enzymes which form DNA and RNA in the first place, and the reassignment of genetic codons which are currently unused. But what is the point of all this? Why do we need to create brand new organisms and genetic instruction manuals when we've got exotic creatures like ponies, tardigrades, and Dutch people already? Number 2, why we're doing it. If you want to understand something, you must replicate the process which created it. This is great advice if you're looking to explore how life on Earth began, but less so if you're curious about how that rotting corpse found its way into your septic tank. By attempting to create life synthetically using xenobiology, mankind could potentially unlock the secrets to the origin of life, not just here on Earth, but all life throughout the universe. Another amazing possibility is that xenobiology could help us to work out what kind of life might exist elsewhere in the cosmos, without us having to actually go there, scoop up some of them, and bring them home to study. For example, there may be complex life forms present within the lakes and streams of hydrocarbon chemicals on Titan, the largest moon of Saturn. These life forms would differ from anything on Earth, since their genetic makeup would be tailored to fit Titan's specific environment. The old school way of analyzing this life involves a multi-billion-dollar space submarine or a 3 billion kilometer round trip, with no guarantee of success. But through the use of xenobiology, we can replicate these potential life forms on Earth by making an educated guess as to the conditions needed for life to arise on Titan. Xenobiology could also lead to genetic modification and biotechnology becoming safer and more widely accepted by the public through the creation of something called a genetic firewall. This term is used to describe how xenobiologists might make new organisms incompatible with traditional life by designing them in such a way that prevents horizontal gene transfer. Horizontal gene transfer describes the movement of genetic material between organisms by any method other than the hereditary system between a parent and their offspring, which is known as vertical gene transfer. Eat a genetically modified goose and it messes your DNA up. That's horizontal. Number 1, what are we doing? It's all well and good looking to the future of xenobiology and predicting what we might discover, how we might use it, and what color unicorn you're going to order when science allows for their glorious return to Earth. But what are we using this technology for now? Let's find out. In the United States, Floyd Romersberg of the Scripps Institute recently led a team which modified the genetic code of E. coli bacteria to include 2 new synthetic DNA bases, X and Y. Romersberg says that this development should eventually allow us to program the bacteria to do as we please, which in turn could lead to its use in treating a range of serious diseases. Another xenobiological experiment, this time led by a team of international researchers based at Imperial College London, has replaced 1/3 of the genetic material in baker's yeast using 5 synthetic chromosomes derived from DNA. Much like the previous example, this project's findings could assist with the treatment of disease, with the successful replacement of yeast DNA hopefully meaning that faulty human DNA is replaceable, allowing genetic conditions like cystic fibrosis and Down syndrome to become a thing of the past. J. Craig Venter is also doing incredible work in the field of xenobiology, as in 2010 he claimed that his company was the first to create a fully artificial life form when his team synthesized an entire bacterium genome and inserted it into another cell. Strictly speaking, this organism wasn't entirely artificial. It was a synthetic replication of an existing life form. The next big step will be the creation of something which has never existed before. A 100% unnatural organism born of a laboratory. It seems we're not far from such a momentous event, but how close are we to creating such a being? And where else might xenobiology take us? We're going to explore this idea further in our bonus video, The Possibilities of Xenobiology, which you can watch on our Patreon page at patreon.com/Strange Mysteries. For a $2 a month pledge, which you can cancel at any time, you'll get to watch this. And all of our bonus content, which goes deeper and darker into every topic than YouTube allows. If you don't want to donate, then
we know you wanted more. Strange Mysteries on YouTube and our Patreon bonus videos weren't enough to quench your search for truth, to give you that sense of awe and wonder again, to go past what you thought was the end, to give you the answers you seek, but which only lead to more questions. That's why we just upped the stakes. Chemicals of reality. Reality, consciousness, brains. What else is there? Ask yourself that question. Perhaps that's all there really is, but perhaps everything else is found within a place where these ideas, these things, overlap.
Alright guys, I'm about to get out of here for a minute. One of my homies need me to help him do something anyway.